All right. Welcome, everybody, to our Google Hangout, Facebook Live, webinar, teleconference, all sort of media combined session today. Today, while we get everybody logged on here, maybe everybody just give me a quick thumbs up or give me a quick like if you can hear me. Make sure that the audio is okay. Everybody can hear me okay? You guys are all right? You oftentimes don't know if there's an audio problem until a while into the deal, but looks like we're okay. We've got folks joining now. Today we have a really interesting session, and we have a lot to accomplish. So I think we should just kind of jump right in here. Today we have a lot to talk about, and a very interesting guest. We have Senior Master Michael Bugg, and today we're going to be talking about how Master Bugg added literally $80,000 a month to the revenue of his school over the last 18-ish months or so. We're going to get into all the details on that as we move through our time today. But I wanted to mention a couple of things before we got started. Number one, again, if you can hear me okay, please make sure you make a comment, or Master Bugg, when it hears you, it'll switch over there. That's why that's doing that. I know it's kind of weird. If you can hear me okay, make sure you kind of put a comment in down there, make sure that that everything's okay on that. And then also, if you do have any questions with our time today for Master Bugg or myself, or any of the topics we're talking about, just put them in the comment section here below, and we'll take a look at that. And I should be able to multitask enough to be able to address some of them here as we speak. The third thing I'd mention is this. One of the things that we've been doing a lot of, and we're gonna talk about it a little bit here with our session as well, is a lot of the schools that we've been working with have really been struggling with their social media marketing, getting their marketing and advertising to produce results that are commensurate with its cost, and that are driving traffic in the front door. And that's what we've been doing with the sign roll process. Is we've been sort of taking that burden off the schools back, and sort of putting it on our team here and helping to drive traffic to the school for you. So we're going to sort of loop through some of that stuff today. But while everyone's popping on here, I just kind of wanted to let everybody know about that. And you can get more details if you want to at ienrollstudents.com. That's ienrollstudents.com. And I'll put the link here in the chat box when I get a chance to type here. But I'll put that link down there for you. So let me once again sort of recast it while everybody's now popped on and sees that the Facebook Live is happening. Today, our special guest is, again, Senior Master Michael Bugg. And Master Bugg has accomplished something over the last 18 months or so. I think that that is something that you don't see very often in our industry, especially when you know the numbers are right. And there are an awful lot of people that, will say one thing, but when you really look under the covers, or you really take a good look at the numbers, it's an exaggeration, or in many cases, just an outright falsehood. But in this case, I can show you numbers, right? And so today we wanted to sort of drill into exactly how Master Bugg accomplished that. Also, I wanted to make sure that everybody really got a chance to meet Master Bugg and get a good sense of what he's accomplished up to this point, and then now obviously, sort of taking the school to the next level. So Master Bugg, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time today. I know it's been a bit of a technical challenge getting all this stuff to work. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule and investing it with us.
No problem, sir.
So I think let's start at the beginning. I think this is pretty important for the folks who are watching, who may not know you, who may not know me, may not know our story and what we're trying to accomplish, what we're accomplishing. Can you kind of start us at the beginning? We're going to loop back to the martial arts school specifically, but you have a background that I think many of our listeners, number one, it'll resonate with, but number two, it's somewhat common. You had a law enforcement background and a correction background before getting into martial arts schools. Can you kind of take us back to the beginning? Can you kind of walk me through, before you decided to open a martial arts school, what your career looked like and some of the challenges that you faced there?
So I grew up in a small town in Virginia, and I was pretty happy in correction and law enforcement, with the sheriff department and all of that. So I was 13 years into law enforcement, and I was really, really happy per se, but my passion was, I was just hoping that I can just do martial arts full time. I just wanted have my own school because one, because you lock up a lot of teens, you lock a lot of kids, and you're like, I personally thought I can just change people's lives, and by doing that, and I guess that one year that I really made my really made my decision to leave law enforcement, actually work in the death row chamber. And I had a kid that it was about to execute. And, and doing when you're dealing with death row inmates, um, you don't get a chance to conversate that much because it's every day the same thing over and over again. So I had this conversation with him. I like, why you get locked up? And he said, I wish there was a program that would have saved me when I was in elementary school. He said, I wish there would have had some mentors. If I could have changed my life around in middle school, I could have been a better citizen. I said, well, what do you do? He said, well, I I grew up with a single parent. My father was in and out. My stepfather was there. He really didn't understand me. And I said, what happened? He said, well, I didn't understand the values of principles and values. So I said, okay. He said, they wouldn't let me go to my girlfriend's house one night. And I said, okay, what did he do? He said, I got mad and I just killed my mom and I killed my step parents. So, and I got to thinking, I can change a lot of lives. And at that time that, I'm still processing to go to the death chamber. And, and that really hit me. I'm like, okay, here I go. I got a kid right now, got to be executed within 30 days. So after execution, everything done, made me realize that that wasn't my passion anymore. My passion was to open a martial arts school. So I took on that challenge and I quit the job, took on that challenge. And I was asked to take over the Chester location, which was a small school in the beginning. And I went into it, not expecting, and so at that time that, I realized I thought I made a mistake. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost my family, it's kind of this, it pretty much destroyed my marriage, and everything. So, and I decided, okay, this wasn't for me. So when Grandmaster Kim told me, he said, okay, we need to talk. So I was his assistant. He said, well, set your goals, focus on everything I said, do, and do what I asked you to do. Don't waver from it. He said, if you stick to your goals, focus on your goal, and you will beat this. And so I lived in the school. I passed out flowers every day. We started the after school program. And it was bad because I'm struggling. Now he asked me to babysit all day. So I was like, okay. But I took on the challenge and and he was my mentor, my coach, because I didn't have a father figures growing up. So, and I did exactly what he told me to do and stuck by it every day, set my goals and, stick to what you just stick to your goals and follow it and believe in it, and just go for it. And it's going to be hard times. Yep. So that's pretty much the beginning of mine.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So really and truly, it sounds cliche, but this is very much sort of a rags to riches kind of a thing. And when you come from the background that you did, not only from, well, let's kind of cast it in a couple different directions. I think a fair amount of people who might be on the call today, might be listening, watching the webinar today, leaving a career of 13 or 14 years in something like law enforcement and corrections. They have things like pensions and they have things like retirement plans and they have things like what an awful lot of folks in the world consider job security, right? Like sort of this idea of being secure and safe and you know what I'm saying? Like go work for the big company for the rest of your life and never have to worry about it. And number one, I think it takes a hell of a lot of guts to have, to follow your passion, to go do what it is you wanted to do rather than what was safe. But I think a fair amount of folks who open martial arts schools have a similar path, right? Where, maybe they were a police officer in the daytime or a firefighter, or they worked in a corporate job or something like that. And as you described, it just isn't, their passion. Now, yours might be kind of an extreme case. I'm not sure how many of our folks, actually walked people to the death chamber, or had to do cell extractions all day long or, those types of things. But still that sort of leap of faith kind of had to happen, right? You wanted to change directions and do something that you really wanted to do. You're really passionate about, not just what was safe. So I think that's kind of a big lesson for everybody. That leap of faith kind of has to happen, right?
Absolutely.
I've helped an awful lot of schools that, just really wanted to sort of dip their toe in the water. and just kind of do it as a part-time thing, and still work the day job and work 40 hours there, and then teach 10 hours a week or whatever it is. And man, that's so hard to accomplish because you're just all your energy isn't in it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So anyway, so from sort of like a very safe, almost corporate-like career to nothing, right? So Absolutely. this thing kind of tanked underneath you, right? Walk me through maybe sort of the big building blocks. What were the 4 or 5 things that you had to do? And for our audience, again, not to sort of dominate the conversation, but to recast for the audience who may not know. Again, you started in a location that was already operating, and really it was tanking, right? You were trying to go in there and rescue this thing.
Absolutely.
Then built up before this latest growth curve, built multi-schools there. So why don't you start with Chester? Start with the single location. What were sort of the big rocks, the big lessons that you had to learn, the big implementations that you had to accomplish to sort of get that school to be successful, and how successful did you get it?
Well, the most important thing you had to realize that because you're a black belt on the floor doesn't mean that you're a black belt in business. And that's the hardest thing I had to learn. And is one, having a mentor that's going to educate me and tell me what to do in business. Because I talk to a lot of school owners, and the hardest thing they got to look at is the business part is the hardest thing, because we're great instructors, but we're not as great business people. So we're going to need a coach in that area. So once I got that coach in that area, I started, and writing down goals and setting plans and learn to execute that plan on a daily basis. And, when I started, it's hard work, because you have to have a promotion every single day, and you go out and do exhibitions, and you put out flyers, and you probably get one that interesting, or maybe none, and at best 2 to 3. And that can be discouraging, and you out there in the community and doing that, but stress, you take that stress from school, you go right back to your home. And the thing that I overcome is not doing things that on the floor, think I can, sign people up. I have to do the business side of it, and have a good coach and have a good plan that's going to help bring me more leads. Well, always got to look for the way to bring more leads in. Also, you got to be consistent with that. Okay. You spend tons of hours trying out there in the community, passing out flyers, doing exhibitions. And it's a lot of work. It's a hard work.
Yeah. And I think we're going to loop back to that in just a few minutes here. This sort of high labor, high leverage marketing activity, or low leverage marketing activity. We talk a lot about that, about, the problem with it is it works, and the problem with it is it sucks, right? It works only a little bit, is very difficult. So we're going to talk, about sort of a different approach to that today.
Right.
So walk me through maybe, so right now, so you took that first location from essentially zero,
yeah, absolutely,
to about where, in about what period of time?
Well, so I said with the after school program, we're doing a resection, and we was actually, in the profit, with the after school, but the adult classes was falling out like crazy. And after the after school program pretty much saved my school. But I noticed that the adult program that, it was struggling huge. And it's continued to struggle up to about 18, 19 months ago. But you just got to, you just got to figure out what's wrong and how to get it back.
Right. So again, essentially from zero to about 800,000 that location was doing?
Yeah, about
18 months ago.
About 18 months ago was right at $800,000.
Okay. So again, let's not fail to underscore that. So again, Masterbug takes this leap of faith, this sort of, oh shit moment, right?
Right.
And changes careers from something that was very stable to something that was not. Tried to rescue a location. It essentially had to start over, right? And then grew that location over about how long, Masterbug, did it take you to get it to about 800,000?
So we was about $800,000 about 5 years ago.
Right. So it took about 5 years to get there. So that's
Correct.
no easy feat.
Correct.
And then as we're describing today, that takes us up to about 18 months ago, right? That takes us up to about, I guess, 17, beginning of 17, something like that.
Correct. Beginning of 17.
And then at the beginning of 17, you guys all started this I-enroll process, this sort of radically different approach to marketing, this radically different approach to attracting the market, branding the schools, and in addition, specifically targeting the adult market. And in the last 18 months, you've now added what?
We right now, we're grossing right now about 1.5 million a year.
1.5 a year. Yeah. So you're up 70-ish, 80-ish thousand a month.
Yeah, we're
right?
about 80,000 a month and still growing.
So again, not to underscore, but we're talking about taking a school from essentially zero to very successful.
Right.
Not being satisfied with that, right? Now seeing the opportunity in the marketplace, seeing where there was a gap in not only your marketplace, but also in the marketing of your martial arts school, and saw the opportunity to, grow even more substantially, essentially doubling ish, right?
Yes.
Essentially adding about 80,000 a month to location a month, not 80,000 total, 800,000 total roughly, to get to about 1.5 a year. Interesting. And now you're responsible for how many locations, Master Bug?
I'm responsible about 5 locations in Virginia right now.
Right. So again, starting at essentially zero, right? Essentially zero. In fact, to be truthful, one of the things I'm trying to speak to right now when I say essentially zero is that there are an awful lot of folks, and me included, it's human nature. An awful lot of times I encounter school operators in coaching arrangements and things like that who sort of make the excuse that, well, I started from zero. I didn't know how to negotiate a commercial lease, or I didn't know, I didn't have a location, or whatever the case might be. And those are absolutely challenges. There's no question about it. But where you started was perhaps even less than zero, because starting in a school that is like on the way, running into the cliff, right?
Absolutely.
Is more difficult to turn around and get going the other way than it is starting afresh. Starting fresh, nobody knows any different. Right? Starting
Absolutely.
fresh, the students aren't trained wrong, right? They're not pre-framed the wrong way. You had to turn all that around. So there's an even larger component of that you had to accomplish, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So let's go back, and then again, now to be responsible for 5 locations. So you're in now the multi-school mindset, sort of the managing the managers
Absolutely.
Role as well. Interesting. So walk me through a couple of items here. So we're gonna recast back in a moment here to the new approach to social marketing, new approach to marketing online that's helped you accomplish this huge feat. But before that, let's walk through a couple of other items. You also installed the transported after school programs in those locations, and in other ways tried to focus on traditional lessons. Walk me through that a little bit. Walk me through the sort of mental shift that it took to accomplish that, and some of the logistics. Like what was sort of the logistical shift that you had to make all that happen?
There's a lot going in planning, and so we work together as a team. And just pretty much is this how we're going to do our promoting. This is how we're going to do our enrollment, and this is the goal, to max out all our after school program, and also max out the adult program as well. So every week we'll meet on that and say, what are we doing? How many leads we have this week? How many appointments we have this week? And we just follow up on it. Because right now we're getting a lot of appointments. Working with the team is it's great, because not only we work with our team here, we got to work with our AMS team as well to make sure that we are on track for success.
I think something that is somewhat of a dangerous assumption that I want to make sure everyone's thinking about and aware of in your own psyche is that this transported after school program model, this transported after school martial arts model, it really has been a godsend for a lot of martial arts schools, and it's not without challenges, right? It's not without obstacles, and you've encountered and overcome all sorts of these types of obstacles. Some school operators will say to me, well, it's hard for me to get into the martial art, into the elementary schools in my area because ... insert reason here. Right. And you're in suburban Virginia, so you've had all sorts of regulatory challenges and compliance challenges. And I mean, pretty much you name it, you're in one of the tougher areas of the nation to make all this happen. What were the big lessons there? What were the big obstacles you had to overcome, and what were the big lessons there?
Well, a lot of obstacles to overcome. Getting to the school. Our program is martial arts. All the kids gonna be. That's not what we want in our school. Just getting past the front door, getting past the counter. But you have to look the other way. Okay, you tell me I can't. How can I? So we're designing a program, written a program how to get into schools. So any obstacles that most martial arts schools face, I've probably been there, and I can show you how to overcome all those arts. And it's just pretty much communicating and find a way to get into the system. And this is a county, Chesapeake County. It's one of the toughest right here in the state to get into, but it's not a school that I cannot walk into right now without ID, with anything. I mean, so that's how, and all our locations around our Richmond's area can get into the schools with no problems.
Yeah, it definitely is. Pretty much you make up your mind, right?
Pretty much.
You make up your mind that we are going to be a partner in education. We are going to be partners with elementary schools. This is what we're going to do. Now, how we're going to do it, right? And
Absolutely.
There's all sorts of different obstacles you're going to overcome, or you're going to encounter. We've discussed on previous calls, and just a quick synopsis today, but really it's all about what's in it for them, right? It's all about what's in it for the school, for the providers, for the administrators and things like that. And if you're in any negotiation, in any conversation, if you're going into the conversation only talking about what's in it for you, like, who cares? They don't care about you, right?
Absolutely.
It's all about what's in it for them. So, and I know you've mastered those strategies over the years. So I think it's very useful for our people here. Okay, so let's sort of rewind again. So one of the things that was very important for you, and something that you discovered that the INROL process was really helpful with, was, as you had been so focused on the transported after school martial arts program for children, you saw a need and a gap in the adult market, right? In the ability to attract and retain adults. So do two things for me. Number one, describe to me why you think and thought at the time that it was so important to refocus on adults. And second, what have the results been like? Like, how has the process helped you to attract and retain adult students?
Well, most of the time that, with a phone call is already for the children, and the adult market, we might have 10 adults in class, and then we'll lose two and we'll get four more, and which is a continued thing. So we really had to focus on, the adult market. And so with the INROL system, they market to the right people. They said it's the right thing. If I can't do what they do, because they know how to market to the adults, and so that was the thing that I struggle with. And most people now think, okay, that's just for children. We need, when now we're packed with adults. I mean, it's unbelievable that, and still getting them in daily. So I think that the right marketing strategy helped our location with the adults.
Yeah. You know what? Let me underscore a couple things that were kind of implicit in what you're describing there. Again, keep in mind, Master Bug is living in the world of the multi-school facilitator. And anybody on the call, anybody listening to the recording, anybody, watching this video, in order to expand, you must replicate yourself. Absolutely. Right? You can't possibly teach every class for the rest of your life and think that you're going to, number one, grow a lot. Number two, expand to multiple locations. Number three, be able to build a sustainable model that can outlast you, outlive you, that can be a legacy for the rest of, for 100 years, not just 10, right? So fortunately, the children that come up through our programs are great candidates for instructors and for franchisees or licensees or school operators or, child satellite locations or whatever, right? That's the great part. The great part is they make great candidates for it. The great part is we have lots of time and many years to train them and teach them right and make sure that they're indoctrinated into the culture and that they're a great example of the product. The downside is it takes decades, right? Student starts with you when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Right.
You got 10 years before maybe more before they can go operate a school, right? I mean, it's crazy. But the adult market is different, right? Maybe drill into that for me. How have the instructor recruiting processes happened for you, and what's all that looking like?
Well, the instructor recruiting process is doing really well now, especially with the iEnroll system we put in play. I mean, it seemed like that it's constant. We get more out there, more phone calls with adults that are doing it. And so it's working really well daily.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've discovered with the type of social marketing that we're doing right now, and I almost hate to lump it into the same category because our approach is very different. It's very different. Really easy to go spend some money on Facebook and drive opt-ins into your website, right? Really
Absolutely.
easy to do that. What we're talking about is something very different. Now you drive those opt-ins and you have 100 opt-ins and one guy shows up.
Absolutely.
What is that, right?
Mhm.
And what we're doing is driving very, very high quality prospects through a multi-step funnel, so that when you get the prospect, they've already set an appointment to come in and see you, and they're already thinking about lessons. In fact, in most cases now, they're even pre-framed for bringing a friend or bringing a referral or bringing somebody with them or training as a family, right? We're doing a bunch of labor on that. But anyway, my point is this, is that, to expand your location, one of the things that we've really sort of found the crease in is we found unique and interesting ways to target the fitness seeking market and the adult and self-defense seeking market with messages that are appealing to them for us. Now, many schools have sort of gone the other direction and created like fitness kickboxing programs and stuff like that. And that's fine, but that's not what I wanted to do, right?
Absolutely.
That's not what I wanted my career to be. Right? I wanted to teach martial arts.
Absolutely.
But the benefits are very similar, right? And what we've been able to do now with the sort of hyper targeting we're able to do on some of these campaigns, we're able to sort that out for you and get the folks who are really interested in long-term programs and interested in lessons to show up at the door. So we're really excited about that. And we're really happy that this is a tool that helps you to expand to multi-locations, expand your instructor base, and not have to wait 20 years, before that 11-year-old is ready. Right. So we're pretty excited about that. The last two items I think maybe on our list today would be this. Number one is this. And I'd like to, I'm interested in what your take is on this. In the past, with traditional marketing, direct mail, television, radio, the amount of money that we had to spend and the amount of impressions that we would have to get in front of our market was so high and so unreachable that truthfully, we're never really able to build a brand for a local martial arts school. It just wasn't economically possible. Right. In my locations, I own billboards, park benches. I was on television, radio. I mean, you name it. And still you could walk down the street. Nobody ever heard of me. Right. This is how it is. Right.
Absolutely.
So what's your experience been so far with this? With the iEnroll process, we're able to target a segment of your market and really get a lot of impressions, really get a lot of material out in front of them before they're really ready to take an action. But we're really able to do that at a high degree at very low cost. What's your experience been with that? What are you focused on in building your local brand, and how has that been helpful?
I've been very helpful and actually have saved me a lot of money. We have a promotion team goes out Tuesdays and Thursday. They promote 4 or 5 hours a day, every Tuesday and Thursday. So you're paying $12 an hour per person. Also, I have a event planner who goes out on a weekend and promote. And with that, you got to pay her. Then you got to pay commissions on all those things. And And secondly is that it's demotivate. They're demotivated. Then they got to come in. The instructor got to come in and teach class. So plus I spend close to $800 a month in material. We does all the local in schools, and every time someone comes and want to promote, we do all that. Now we cut all that out. I don't do anything like that anymore. I wake up every week. There's morning that's does appointments, and we use the money that I was spending. I used to give my staff a raise. Also, we use that money to have once a week we have staff meeting, and they all go to lunch. So now our instructors are motivated because I never know how much they hated going out there promote, and so now, we don't buy we don't buy any flyer. We have a little bit just for events and that nature exhibition, but they don't. That's completely off the market now. I mean, this new Iron Road thing is working very well for, and actually it's working a lot better, and we're saving a lot more money.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is somewhat of a commonality. For some number of years, a little organization that I did a bunch of work with, their sort of biggest marketing strategy, their one of the things that they taught all of their units, all of their operators, was this, VIP process, right? And I'm sure anybody who's been around the industry for a while knows what that's all about. And the VIP process essentially is you take a bunch of little cards and you stand out on the street corner, or you go to the gas station and you stand by the gas pumps. And while somebody who looks like one of your customers, like a mom of a 9-year-old driving a minivan or something like that, is pumping gas in the car, you walk up to him and you say, "Hey, see that you live in the area. Have you ever heard of XYZ Martial Arts?" And you have a little clipboard and your pass and a little info slip, right?
Absolutely.
And then you try to get them to fill out the info slip, and then you give them the pass to lessons. Now, again, as I described earlier, the problem with that strategy is it does work a little bit. But what does it do to your staff, right? Your staff members are out there sweating their butt off. I live in Florida.
Right.
I mean, right now it's September, and today it's going to be like 96 degrees, right? I mean, it's an ugly thing, right? And again, the problem is it works. You're going to get a couple leads a day. You're going to get,
Absolutely.
3, 4, 5 leads a day, maybe, right? If you're very lucky. Now, I'm not sure how many of those actually turn into appointments that show up. That is a much smaller number. But the downside is now your staff is out there all morning sweating their butt off, and now they have to go back and teach classes all night.
Yep.
Right. So as you described, what's their motivation level? How excited are they about that process, right? Like, what's that all about? And now as a multi-school facilitator, you've got to be really focused on their headspace, right?
Absolutely.
What's in their head when they walk on the floor? What do you put in their head before they walk on the floor, right? So I think that's a big lesson. Everybody, underline that. Master Bug has given you a gift today. The gift is you are responsible for the motivation level of the team as they walk into the school, as they get on the floor, as they teach the lessons that you need them to teach, right? So write that down, put that in your book, have Master Bug, autograph it for you next time you see him, because that's a winner, right? That's a winner. Okay, good. Well, I think that was really what I needed to accomplish. I think the other part that you may want to speak to that might be useful is, as you said, you've now, freed up some cash to be able to invest back in the team and stuff like that. And their excitement level for your expansion, I'm sure is very high. When you're part of a team that's growing, you're part of an organization that's growing, that's a pretty exciting days, right?
Right.
Any last, bits of advice that you might give a school that might be sputtering or stuttering or, really wants to be on a growth curve? Anything that you might say that might be helpful for them to think about, maybe think a little bigger?
It's one thing I would say, a couple of things you have to realize that you got to ask yourself, I'm a black belt in business. If you're not, you have to get on the right path and get with a mentor, get somebody that going to help you market it. And so you can grow and also work on retention within your school. I mean, because if your instructors are demotivated, the back door is open to your school. Doesn't matter if you get 1 or 2 appointment comes in, they're going to go right back out.
Right.
So, and I realized that once that we stop doing all the promotion and let the Iron Road system take over, they'll focus more on classes. The classes are more fun and beneficial, as well. So, and as of right now, with that, and I can walk outside with you right now, and you see we under construction.
Yeah, I forgot to mention. By the way, I forgot to mention for anyone. I'm assuming that Master Bug is okay with letting the cat out of the bag. But as I described earlier on our call, Master Bug again took a location that was tanking, right? Took a location that really needed to be rescued, figured out how to turn it around, figured out how to get it to about 800 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Then over the last 18 to 20 months or so, with sort of shifting focus with the Iron Roll marketing processes, has now added another 80,000 a month, right? A month, 1.5 million a year now. He's currently in a 10,000 square foot building, and is now, as he said, under construction. Is now, how far are you in the process? But looking at 20,000 square feet. What's that looking like?
Right now, we're in the process now. We're getting our parking done right now. And right now we got plans for another 10 to 15,000 square feet as soon as they can approve it. And so looking to fill that up. So as of right now, and I know you can hear right now, the bulldozers are outside right now and and under construction, so matter of fact, and so I'm going to take you with me. So, and so I'll take you with me. So, with set to go, and right now with the appointments, let me show you the appointments for today, which is so far this week. If you can see on the computer.
Yeah, we can see. Okay.
So as you can see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 appointments set so far for this evening and stuff. So what up? So. And if you can see the bulldozers and stuff out there, can you see that?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, we're under construction. So that's where we're at. So we're in the process. And this week we got about 20 appointments going to be coming in this week. So far, so it's good. So,
yeah, again, I think this underscores a couple things, right?
Right.
I'll slightly translate because I think you not stumbled across, but you mentioned casually something I think that's pretty important. You really have to think about, if you're in growth mode, you really have to think about what you're spending time on. And you mentioned, there's a big difference between being a black belt on the floor and a black belt in business. And I would put another category in there as well. And there's yet another difference between being a black belt in like internet marketing, right?
Right.
And one of the things that we're now able to do with the state of social, with the state of the internet, with the state of technology, some of which we've developed here internally proprietarily, some of which that we're leveraging at a high level. This puts us in a position to be able to get underpriced attention, to get cheap eyeballs, frankly, right? On the right market at the right time.
Absolutely.
These targeting tools have never existed in this format before, and they've never existed with this level of granularity before, and they've never existed at this low of a cost before. So that's what we're leveraging. The second part I'd mention is this. You have to decide what your role is in your organization. And the role that Master Bug has been able to elevate himself to is that of the CEO of his organization. Many martial arts school operators who want to grow relegate themselves to janitor in their organization, relegate themselves to only the frontline employee, relegate themselves to, right? So they take on all these roles and responsibilities and they all have to get done. Don't get me wrong. But when you start thinking like a CEO, what are the big things I need to be worried about? I need to be worried about enrollments, renewals, retention, and quality. Well, if I'm spending all day long standing out on a street corner with a clipboard, talking to people one at a time at the gas station, how am I focused on renewals, retention, and quality? How am I focused on the profitability of the location? How am I focused on attracting new staff members? How am I focused on building another building? Right? So I think what you described is the ability to delegate a lot of the marketing functionality and get better results, right, than burning your team out, doing it themselves. The ability to delegate that to the iron roll process is what can free up the time and brain cycles, right, to function as a CEO would, which is I'm watching my numbers, right?
Absolutely.
I have 4 appointments this evening. That 4 appointments is going to turn into 3.65 enrollments. Those 3.65 enrollments is going to be worth, I don't know, $30,000 to me over the next year. This is the deal, right? So I think you mentioned that implicitly in what you're describing, and I think that's something that you really should be thinking about as a school operator. How do you move yourself into the CEO role rather than just the chief cook and bottle washer role?
Absolutely.
Right. So Master Bug, thank you again so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. All of our technical challenges aside, I think we accomplished getting everybody a good sense of where you came from and what you're all about. And, if people have questions about executing these processes, I know that you're always very accommodating and helpful and will answer questions and help contribute to people if they have issues with those types of things. So we really appreciate that. And we're really happy to be able to help you in your quest to, global domination of the Eastern Seaboard. So thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Speak to you soon. Thanks, everybody. If you have any questions or comments, remember, put them in the chat area below. I'll be happy to take a look at that, and we'll loop back over to this stuff over the next few minutes. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, sir.